I don't really know how to put this together, but this is going to be a little story about how scapegoating goes. And this is not about me, this is about somebody else. But I think that, like, their story is a good example of how scapegoating goes. It also reminds me of this post that I had seen, well, this comment that I actually used in another video about how, wait, what was it? What was it about? Oh yeah, about how mental health professionals are commonly quote-unquote psychopaths and stuff like that. And somebody had made this comment, which if I remember, I'll edit it in here. And they were like, poor sociopaths or something like that go to prison. Rich ones become lawyers, doctors, some other things I can't remember. And then somebody else had replied and they had made a comment. They were like, more like abused people become, wait a minute. No, I think I'm getting something mixed up. But yeah, as far as that first comment I mentioned, that definitely makes me think of this. Because this specific person, this is somebody that I kind of tried to avoid since, like, the first day I met them, because I could tell they were a let me help you lunatic type person. I also could tell that they were intimidated by me and a whole bunch of other things. But still, overall, they're definitely a nice person. Their situation is definitely screwed up. So, to start this off, I think I should mention that she has mixed kid trauma. This has also caused her to say some really sideways racial things to me. And the thing is, when it comes to mixed kid trauma, well, no. The thing is, when it comes to white supremacy, is that just like with quote-unquote narcissism and certain spectrums of quote-unquote schizophrenia, it revolves around the Jezebel, Leviathan, and other spirits. So, her narcissistic, racist, quote-unquote white mom it reminds me of how people with Jezebelic or quote-unquote narcissistic Willen syndrome house nigger parents can be to a certain extent, but I could still say that that having mixed kid trauma and having the racist quote unquote white parents, or even being adopted by some rich racist people which commonly end up sex trafficking their kids, this definitely worse than the Willie Lynch syndrome Jezebelic house nigger parent, but it's still really similar. And that's something that she doesn't seem to get, because she seems to think that, like, just having quote-unquote black parents would have made her situation any better. But I mean, somebody with the Jezebel and Leviathan spirits is somebody with the Jezebel and Leviathan spirits. So it would be better to just have wanted healthy parents than her throwing the racial shade crap that she does at me. Because the thing is, she still doesn't even know my real name. She doesn't know my situation because, of course, I don't tell people my situation or my previous situation. But she's always trying to say things that show that she feels like I had it better, and that the only thing that made my situation worse was that I was broke and lived in the hood. At some points, at least, I lived in the hood, but yeah. So, due to her situation, she was pretty well off financially at certain points in time. She also had hippie grandparents that did eventually die that like lived in the mountains in a cabin or something like that. And she says that those were her good years. And that's something funny that I always notice with these grandparents who raise these terribly messed up, demonized people. It's like, how do you mess up your kids to that point where they become narcs that completely terrorize their kids? But then when you get older, you start to settle down and get decent, and you treat the grandkids decently, commonly. Because I personally had a point in time where I lived with my grandma for some years, but I don't want to go into that. So, yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad. She definitely was an enabler, but it just makes me think about that. Like that grandparent thing and how they can be nice enough to you, but they screwed up your parents is crazy to me. She also has the common situation for a narc parent because both her parents were narcs, but her mom was definitely essayed by her dad, even though she felt like it was consensual, because her dad is way too old for her mom. And trying to think of what else to say. But yeah, pretty much she just lived in the house where she just was just getting terrorized and attacked all day. And I've met a couple people with situations like this. I've also met people who you can definitely tell they went through something like this, like the kids where they just have scratches and cuts and bruises and wounds all over them from head to toe. Those types of people. And these scars commonly last well into adulthood. Like I've met a couple people with those where they have whip marks all over their back. I've heard of people seeing kids that are missing nipples, stuff like that. Burn marks from cigarettes. So yeah, she's one of these types of people who went through that type of stuff. And she was pretty much just not allowed to leave the house. She also went through the common bullying thing that happens with abused kids who fall into the promiscuity. Although she says that the first essay that she remembers happened at school and not at home. That's something else too. But I'm not even going to go into that whole school essay thing. So, anyway, she fell into the whole promiscuity thing. And then the common thing that happens in these situations with molesters and them getting what I like to call child sex abuse imagery from the kid victim is they share it to people. This is so common. Like there was this whole story back in the 2010s of this girl who was obviously being neglected, and she ended up finding a quote-unquote boyfriend molest her online, and then the dude was stalking and harassing her, and he would send videos and pictures that she had sent him to people that went to her school and to people in her town, and he did it for years. The police, of course, wouldn't do anything. The school staff didn't care. Her parents didn't care. Her parents just wanted to, like, get away from the embarrassment. And pretty much everybody bashed her until she eventually unalived herself. And she had a YouTube channel, too, where she was, like, holding up flashcards about how she was going to unalive herself. And eventually her parents and the other people in her town and the police just got all her videos deleted and hushed up about the whole situation. And I would definitely say all those people, including the abuser that of course never went to jail, they pretty much killed her. If you ask me, that's what I would say happened. So yeah, this girl went through something similar to this, where like everyone in her town had supposedly seen the videos of whatever all was going on, and people still harass her till this day about it. I honestly don't get why she won't move for multiple reasons, but this is really common. And also I have a video about how the kid victims commonly get charged with quote-unquote CP. Meanwhile, the molesters, they just run free. Like I said in this video, I've met so many 12-year-olds throughout the years who have multiple quote-unquote CP charges. And of course, they get bashed. I've even met this girl who went through this, and her so many people at her school just bully her, including staff, for so many different things revolving around her trauma and different things she had going on. Even people who had witnessed her abuse would make fun of her about it and bring up things like them seeing her mom beating on her and stuff. I'm not laughing because it's funny. Her mom beating on her and stuff, like in the yard. But yeah, in fact, this specific girl that I was just mentioning, there's this police officer at her school that was calling her a whore and stuff like that because of her trauma symptoms, but he ended up getting fired and going to jail, or at least getting charged. He probably didn't even really go to jail, but he ended up getting fired because he was molesting some kids. It's like the projection with these abusers, it's just all annoying. But yeah, but back to the person I was originally talking about though. So that happened. Then a lot of stuff had happened with school and people harassing them, and don't know much about the story, but tying nooses to their locker and saying that they should unalive themselves because of the child sexual abuse imagery that went viral of them. And what else was it? Oh yeah, then they did end up trying to unalive themselves, and of course their abusers then said that they were a coward and they were being scary and all that stuff because they tried to unalive themselves. And of course, she ended up going into the mental health system branch of the Cash for Kids system for trying to unalive herself. I don't really know much about what happened with that whole situation, but I know how the Cash for Kids system is and how they further traumatize, drug, and label you. And her parents knew karate and a whole bunch of other stuff, so they would beat on her. And yeah, so I don't really know like a lot of details. I just know that pretty much she was just locked in a house getting beat on and stuff all day, and definitely has the scars to prove it. So fast forward, by 17, she eventually got tired of getting tortured and beat on all day, as well as other things that were going on and the racial stuff she was going through with her mom. And she left. She also has a younger brother that she raised. And due to the fact that her mom was one of those people with that racial buck-breaking BBC fetish, her mom treated her brother a little bit better than her. And this is common for Jezebelic women in general. They commonly will treat their sons better. But yeah, so her brother was still staying with one of the parents, or moving back and forth or something. I'm sure he didn't have a good situation either. And oh yeah, due to the fact that their parents were pretty well off financially at most points in time, they were kind of like the tiger type parents too. The ones that, I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but the ones that vicariously live through their kids. And so they'll force their kids into certain colleges or certain careers or work fields. So their parents forced both of them into sports, but she said, she being the person I've been talking about, probably should have like gave some type of name label. But anywho, she said the sports were a coping mechanism for her, and it helped her let out her anger because she could like kick people and stuff, something like that. And her brother wanted to be a YouTuber. It kind of reminded me of my younger brother, but her brother wanted to be a YouTuber, but he was forced into sports. In fact, he's in the NFL now. He just graduated a little while ago, and of course she was upset because no one told her she wasn't allowed to go to her brother's graduation. Like, I had already missed so many of my siblings' graduations. I mean, I missed my own. I didn't I didn't even get to go to school myself, but I kind of do wish that, like, I could see how they're doing. My siblings, well, I don't know, but my nephew, at least, he didn't really get to go to school either, so it's just kind of a messy situation, but I would like to be able to see how they're doing. But that's how these situations are, though. Different abuse victims, or I guess, I don't know, how could I put this? Siblings in these types of dysfunctional demonic family systems are pinned against each other. And so, not only that, but if you escape the family system, you don't get to have contact with anybody, especially younger siblings that, like, they don't have phones, or your parents can say that, like, they can't talk to you, stuff like that. And since I was a scapegoat, they've been told so much bullcrap about me. They probably wouldn't want to, at least maybe not my younger sister, but I know that my siblings are probably, like, feeling some type of way about me being gone. It's still kind of, I'm making this about me. But really, though, I do feel kind of upset about the situation. My nephew, he didn't really get to go to school, so he was there when I left or escaped. He was there throughout the whole fiasco of them, like, trying to board up the doors with the couches and stuff. But I still got out, though. But my siblings were at school that day. So I just feel like they're probably, like, upset because I was there when they left and I was gone when they came back. And I probably never will see them again, to be truthfully honest. But there goes my little couple minutes of me making this about me. Back to the situation with this girl, though. So, yeah, she told me about how she raised her brother, and that's how she knows what he was really interested in, and that he really didn't even want to do sports. So he's just doing sports for the mom, pretty much. Probably the dad, too. And it's just, like, really... It's just really messed up that she's pretty much been homeless since 17, even though she doesn't consider herself to have been homeless because she does woofing a lot. And, of course, that means she's taken advantage of a lot, and she definitely is being taken advantage of terribly right now by a very abusive, physically abusive landlord at this woofing farm. And it's just really messed up. And she has a lot of cognitive dissonance around her abusers. In fact, due to the fact that she lives in a small town, she always tries to keep it a secret of why she's actually out here in the first place, because she doesn't want people to think anything bad about her parents, because some people know her parents. But to be truthfully honest, anybody with common sense would know obviously something happened if you're out here and you've been out here all this time. But yeah, so luckily when she left, she had the luxury of not being reported missing, at least. So she was able to leave and couch surf with whoever will let her couch surf with them for however long their parents would agree. And of course, in situations like this, the abused kid that either got kicked out or escaped their situation or was in foster care and ended up homeless commonly ends up staying with molesters at some points in times, but they may not really want to admit this. But that's the common way that these situations go. And I mean, she's tried, but when you don't have anybody, things are really hard. So you fall into a lot of cycles. And she also just has a lot of cognitive dissonance about just a lot of things. She's one of those people that lies to themselves about everything that goes on in the world to go to sleep at night. But it doesn't benefit the person because they still end up depressed, running around crying all day. So I don't get the point. This is something I talk about so much. But yeah, so she claims that she never considered herself homeless really, because anytime she has a roof over her head, she doesn't consider herself homeless. But that, I don't know what to say about that. I would, like most people, would probably just say that she's pretty much been homeless since 17 and wouldn't consider her woofing and stuff having a place. She did do the room share thing because, I mean, here you can't afford to rent a place without sharing a house with a whole bunch of random people anyway. But of course, that goes so left and is so toxic that, I mean, I don't know. That's just about homeless or at risk of it. I'm trying to think of what else to say. But yeah, I guess back to scapegoating though. It's just really messed up that, like, since you're the scapegoat, even if you raise your siblings and you do a whole bunch of stuff for them and you take care of them, they'll still end up feeling some type of way about you because of all the brainwashing. And people like him, not trying to blame him, but I'm just saying things for how they are, can go into the NFL and then still, like, leave their scapegoat sibling behind. He probably was even told a whole bunch of bullcrap and told not to talk to her. I can only imagine what he's told, because I know what siblings or just other people who are around get told about the scapegoat. And he's probably only a golden child to a certain extent. He probably couldn't wait till 18 to get up out of there. Trying to think of what else to say. Oh yeah, and just as a side note, he's doing that common thing that people that get into the entertainment industry do, or the sports industry, where they end up getting with some Euro lady that's too old for them, and it looks like Kim Kardashian. It's just a sad cycle, and it totally makes sense why somebody who grew up in the racial climate, if that's even the term for it, that he did, will fall into that. But it's so common, especially because sometimes they're forced to do it. But there's just so much I can say about that. I guess that's it, maybe. Oh, but as a side note, back to the Williams syndrome programming, or what I sometimes call Williams syndrome house niggerism and a whole bunch of other terms. Due to the fact that she, like, went through all of that stuff, she, like, has still, like, a lot of, how do I explain this? I don't know, it's like she felt like I would be jealous of her because she's light-skinned. And it's so weird, though. It's really obvious that she's really never been around quote-unquote black people, because, I mean, especially those of the Negro ethnicity, a lot of us are quote-unquote light-skinned, but it still doesn't matter anyway. It's just so annoying, though, because I don't care about any of that bull crap. Honestly, once you break free from the mind control and actually know your ethnicity and where you come from, none of that stuff can even live rent-free in your head, or you even care about weird melanin self-hatred bull crap.